a playlist original.
I want to rob.
Hey, where are we going?
Wherever we want. Awesome. Let's go shopping.
You can't steal her dog.
But he likes me. Does it make you nervous?
That's a cute dress. Did you get a new dress?
Mm-hmm. This is so sick! It all comes back to bad choices.
She went off the deep end.
Please. This is my interview.
The Bling Ring, rated R, opens June 21st.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Back to the Blockbuster with your hosts, Gaius and Jackson. An anniversary episode.
Yes,
our favorites.
love these.
Our favorites. Before we get into
watch for me.
Another first time watch, which is no,
Yes.
this is also good to mention too, because like I get more. Of course, doing something like Jurassic Park was great, like something we've both seen. But it is pretty exciting when it's something you haven't seen. When it's like, all right, I'm like, if you're seeing this for the first time,
100%.
This one not too far, removed. It's only 10 years, old. But still interesting to kind of get your perspective on, it being a first time watch, and then this movie in particular being connected to a very, at the time, a very big story within Hollywood, and the fact that it involves mere teenagers is an even crazier story.
Yes.
Before I get into the actual movie, though, I do want to say we love doing the anniversary episodes. They're a lot of fun. The Can't Hardly Wait one is doing really, really well currently still.
Nice. Yes, thank you, Mark, for joining us.
Mark,
on that
I think Mark was a huge assist on that one.
Yep.
I've found that episode's been shared by a few other podcasters who covered the movie and thought that you did a really good job covering the movie, and they just thought it was like a really fun listen. For some, it was the first time they discovered us, so that the other podcasters, so that was awesome. So that was cool too. I've actually talked to a few different ones who like want to collab now because of what they heard on that episode, so that was a lot of fun.
Love to hear that.
And I didn't get to mention on the episode we recorded before this one, but on Good Pods, at one point we had 4 of our episodes in the top 100 episodes in any category. Jurassic Park just fell out of it, but right now, Can't Hardly Wait. Our first deep dive in a month for Good Time is also in the top 100, and our news episode from last week. So we have 3 episodes in the top 100 on Good Pod. So thank you guys for listening on there and everywhere. It means you like all the different shades of Back to the Blockbuster. So
I wish there are a few. Glad to hear it. Glad the deep dive is back in full swing and it's killing it on Good Pods. That's awesome to hear. Fantastic movie to have chosen too. Good pick. That was Owen's pick. Is that right?
Yeah, it was Owen's pick. Yeah.
That's good.
We mentioned that we did one with mine, and there was like some technical difficulties. We lost it. He had a really good idea.
Oh, so you weren't even able to post it, eh?
No. But he had a really good idea on how to make it like a lost episode, because we're going to record it again. I think recording it too close to when we did it would have been kind of awkward. We're like, oh, I feel like I already said this,
right.
But I think a little bit further removed from it, because I still want to use the movie, because the movie that we chose was pretty good, and it was a fun. Yeah. It was a fun
perfect.
talk.
I'm glad you guys are still going to cover it, because I feel like you kind of get robbed.
Yeah, a little bit. So he wants to promote it as like kind of a lost episode, and I think he actually wants to record it together. So we're gonna figure out how we're gonna.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Get that one done. So, but yeah, another anniversary one. 10 years old. As of June 14th. Came out June 14th, 2013. It's a movie called The Bling Ring. The Bling Ring. Sorry, it's a 2013 crime film written and directed by Sofia Coppola, featuring an ensemble cast led by Emma Watson, Katie Chang, Israel Broussard, Taissa Farmiga, and Claire Julien. It is based on the 2010 Vanity Fair article "The Suspects Wore Louboutins," which dealt with the real-life gang known as the Bling Ring, who were also known as the Hollywood Hills Burglar Bunch, the Burglar Bunch, and the Hollywood Hills Burglars. They were a group of
bunch. I like that.
They were a group of teenagers and young adults based in and around Calabasas, California, who were convicted of multiple thefts. They broke into the homes of several high-profile celebrities over a period believed to have been between October 2008 through August 2009. Their activities resulted in the theft of about $3 million in cash and belongings. Much of the stolen property belonged to socialite Paris Hilton, whose house was broken into several times, and they believe between the people's houses who were broken into and who they were also targeting that they didn't get to break into, over 50 homes were reportedly targeted by the Bling Ring.
Oh my god. I didn't even know there was that many.
Yeah, the most high profile ones, and they are featured in the movie, of course, were Paris Hilton, Audrina Patridge, who was on the MTV reality show The Hills, Rachel Bilson from the OC, Orlando Bloom, you know who he is, and his then wife Miranda Kerr, Brian Austin Green and his then wife Megan Fox, and Lindsay Lohan, which is considered the granddaddy of one of the people in the Bling Ring.
Right.
The movie was actually released at they premiered at the Cannes Film Festival because it's Sofia Coppola. Sofia Coppola's name being attached to it. It received generally positive reviews from critics, with many praising the cast and Coppola's stylish direction. Watson, in particular, received critical acclaim for her performance in the film. However, others criticized the film for its morally ambiguous approach towards the subject matter. Also, it represents the final work of cinematographer Harris Savides, who died of brain cancer while the film was in post-production. He has one very good visual scene in this movie. I think it was one of the that I love. It's like really well done. And I'm sure we'll shout him out again later. Before I get into the movie, did you know anything about this true story before?
Not a single thing about it. Like, I think maybe somewhere in the remnants of my mind I can like maybe drum up talk of like a string of break-ins in Hollywood, like the Hills rather, but certainly nothing about the name or that it was done by teenagers or who was targeted. Maybe Paris Hilton. I think if anything, like maybe I've heard that, but this could be just my brain playing a trick on me. I was unaware that it was a film. Been through Sofia Coppola's catalog before, and I don't ever recall coming across this one. So no, I was brand new to this one.
Yeah, it was interesting too, because we brought it up on the episode we recorded before this one, how she's a very unique filmmaker where all her movies feel very different. So when I first found out she was doing this, I was surprised because it didn't seem like something she would do. No. And then the marketing and trailers for it, they really sold you on the kind of the excess of like these kids doing this. And visually it felt like something very different for her too, in a sense. And that's why I was kind of excited. Of course, also, if you lived in the Los Angeles area and you knew about this story was huge here, especially because it involved a lot of like, you know, socialites like Paris Hilton and up and coming celebrities like Rachel Bilson and Megan Fox. Like, it was a big deal when it was going on. This was like, in the real birth of TMZ. So there is all that happening as well.
Okay, cool.
And in the midst of this. And then you also have these like real life celebrities as they depict in the movie who are getting DUIs, like all this other stuff, all these kind of things that are going on in the pop culture like stratosphere at the time. It was like this perfect storm of stuff. And in the midst of all this, you have these teenagers who, if you were to believe them, didn't think they were doing anything wrong. They admired these people. They admired the celebrities that they were stealing from. So like, at the beginning of the movie, that opening, when they're like breaking into one of the homes, one of the characters says, "Let's go shopping." And that was like a catchphrase that the real people would say. They felt like they were going to shop at some random store, basically.
Right.
Not really thinking that like they're breaking in and committing a crime and stealing from these people. They really did admire them in a sense where they're like, oh, I admire their fashion. Like, oh, she wore this, those shoes, that bag.
They want to feel close to these people by doing this, right?
People.
Yeah.
Right. And also, you would think maybe they were maybe not as well off. But no, these are rich kids for the most part. Yeah. There are certain people that they pulled into that were a little bit like not as well off as them. And they kind of depict a few of them in the movie a little bit. But like the main group of girls, the Calabasas area over here is a very lucrative part of California. That's where a lot of celebrities live there. These kids were living there. They were not destitute by any means. Their parents could probably afford a lot of the stuff that they were swiping, but I don't think, like I said, the way they viewed it, they weren't viewing it as like we're taking something from like almost like they'd be proud that I was wearing something that I took from their house.
Very much come across that way.
And like, I mean, and the balls to like post it on social media, like all over Facebook, they're wearing all this like stolen merchandise.
Like, come on, right?
Like, how? And there's so many different things in the movie that I want to get into. I was kind of curious, like one of the things that I watched when you said that you were about to put it on, I had just finished it again. like
Oh,
from
okay, right
not
on.
again, but like it's been a while since I watched it. But
Yep.
you got to forget that these are teenagers when you're watching it a bit because they're getting bottle service at clubs.
Well, yeah, that threw me off. I get it's not a detriment to the
which
movie.
can happen if you
Yeah.
have connections to like some of them have fake IDs that they didn't really say that in the movie, but some of them are also well off enough where they could pay off people, be like, hey, like let's get into this club, and they would let them in.
Right.
And
Which is just
so
beyond like crazy to me.
so like I was always like when I was watching, I was like, I wonder if Jackson's like this is not realistic at all. Like how is this happening?
Like I understand that this probably happens in some regions. It's very hard to see like and take it seriously because around here we don't have anything like quite to that scale. So like around here, like if especially back like when I was closer to this age, when I was fine because it's 19 here versus 21 in the States. So like when if I saw someone I knew was 17 or 18 at the club around here when I was first like at that age, it was like, hey, weird, like you're a kid, like this is a spot for other, for adults. And I say that as a 19-year-old. So I can't imagine people like in their 20s and 30s at a club seeing a group of very obviously high school kids like getting bottle service and dancing and grinding. And I'm like, how are they like, why is nobody cringing at this? Because I'm cringing from my couch watching it go down. And again, it's not like a decision in the movie that I'm like hearkening on. It's just like,
it's just
ew,
it's like
why?
like it's so crazy that like
it is, yeah.
And LA, I'm sure I'm sure it happens in a lot of places, but LA being a big one, I can imagine this being another big one in like New York City,
definitely,
maybe Chicago, like some of those like kind of bigger like cities and stuff
like
and states.
I
and all
understand
that. Like,
it goes on.
But yeah, I couldn't imagine serving if I was working at one of these places. I'd be like, aren't you like 16?
Like what are you doing here?
But they walk in like they own the place, so it's like it's interesting. But before I get into like more detailed stuff, what was your kind of Cliff Notes thoughts of like the film as like a first time watch? Because I think you're dealing with the whole like unlikable character aspect of it too.
Yes, it's like nothing like. Because like what I'm going to say might sound like I don't like the movie or that I thought it was bad. That's not the case. It's like it's a movie I found myself asking afterwards, like, will I watch it again? I'm not sure. Maybe in a long way down the road. It felt honestly like it would be better served as sort of like a semi-documentary rather than a feature film. It didn't come across almost like a feature film to me when I was watching. It was just I can't quite even like really put a word on it. It was just unlike kind of any other one that I had seen before. Maybe because of the proximity that it had come out to the story that it was covering.
Yeah.
An interesting watch for sure. And like I thought it did a great job covering the story, of which I think would be fascinating to have lived so close to it, like you do. Would be really cool to have seen it when it came out. I think the performances, there was a lot of things and tidbits about the movie that I liked. I'd say more than I liked the movie itself. Interesting that I agree that it was a very different choice for Sofia Coppola. Although like I found myself wondering what movies of hers I had seen, of which I found out there's been very few, more of which I know of, but that I just haven't come across yet. So it was nice to have seen a movie from that filmmaker because she's great. Really interesting story. Honestly, like the way that it's told, I thought they handled it really well, and very unbelievable that when you consider the age of these kids, because it's exactly what they are, and like the high profile crimes. Because you're right, when you said crime movie, I was like, ew, oh, it is a crime movie. Not in the way that you think like The Dark Knight. It's a crime movie.
It's not The Town.
Because for the most part, yeah, exactly. And that's like what I feel like people might, if you say, oh, check out this crime movie, The Bling Ring, I feel like that's like the kind of movies that genre is associated with. But yeah, no, you're totally right. It is a crime movie, albeit like a kind of a harmless crime one, if you don't think of theft as very detrimental. But definitely an interesting one. Well, unlike, like I said, I know I'm repeating myself, but unlike any movie I can recall seeing in a long time. But I kind of agree with the reviews on this one, not necessarily like the more nuances of what people had said about it, but more like the scores. Like I feel like it was accurately rated, but not in a bad way. Just like, okay, it's not any means like an awards movie, but it's not trying to be either.
Yeah,
but in an interesting story.
Yeah, it's interesting that A24 released this and Spring Breakers in the same year, because I think and I think in a lot of ways they deal with this sort of like
it's a great comparison.
Celebrity obsessed like youth culture in a very different way, of course.
Yes.
But like and apparently that's what Sofia Coppola was attracted to. She was really attracted to. She wanted what attracted her to the story was like these group of teenagers being the products of like kind of like this growing like reality TV culture, like kind of celebrity culture where everyone is like knows where everyone is going and what they're wearing and all this other stuff. And so they asked her, actually, I have a quote here that says, the female characters in the film were seen as a departure from Coppola's previous work centered around the female perspective, discussing the difference between the female perspective in Lost in Translation versus the Bling Ring. She says that instead of a woman trying to find herself in a new foreign country, the Bling Ring deals with girls trying on other people's stuff to find themselves. Although the Bling Ring deals with more consumerist and gaudy sense of style and culture, Coppola says the film was just really fun to indulge this style that's so different from my own. I am more associated with being understated and with good taste, I think, and it's a fun to be really obnoxious. So she really liked the excess part of the story, and the fact that it involved young. I mean, that was the big deal when this story broke, is the fact that they were all teenagers. Everyone was expecting, like, you know, much older. And the fact that they did it for so long and got away with it for so long, but then it also sparked this other discussion about, so all the stuff with when they started breaking into Paris Hilton's house and they're like, oh, she probably leaves her key under her mat. She really did.
I cannot believe that. Like,
she really did in real life. She really did in real life.
Holy.
A lot of the places they broke into, sliding glass door, just not locked, open. They just walk in. Oddly enough, in a full circle moment, Paris Hilton let them film in her actual house at the Bling Ring. The Bling Ring actually broke into.
Very nice of her, generous.
And they said they didn't have to dress up the house too much. That is Paris Hilton's home, so all the pillows with her face on it and
the
all
pictures
that
of all the articles that she's featured and stuff. I was like, okay, come on. I'm not surprised to see that, but I was like, it's really like that.
Yeah. So strange. It was really that easy for them to do it. In a sense,
it's only a matter of time until something like this really happened.
Right. And then you get of course, with any movie like this, and much like, you know, of course, this happened in real life too, like, people get greedy and they start to do it too much and they become reckless. And that's what they started taking shit that would be noticeable. Like when they were leaving Orlando Bloom's house and she's like, she took the painting off the wall and said she has to decorate her house at her dad's house in Vegas. I was like, they're going to notice that's gone. I think it's so like, they're so far gone. Yeah. They're so far gone that they're like, fuck it. Like, just
they've been getting away with it for so long. Yeah, exactly. The Rolex, Orlando Bloom's Rolex tray. Lexus. Oh man, that
those were some of the big money items that were taken that were like noticeable and where people were like, okay, like, we need to look into this. Audrina Patridge's home was one of the first to actually have like camera footage. So she was a big one. She was a big one that helped kind of narrow down who was doing this. And honestly, maybe if they would have stopped after Audrina, they probably could have gotten away with it because you couldn't really see them, even on the real video stuff. You can't really see their faces and all that.
You don't know who you're looking for. Yeah.
You don't know who you're looking for. But yeah, it really brought up a big thing about like how obsessed some teenagers are with celebrity culture and
youth in general. Kids. Yeah, it's a fanaticism.
I will say this: I have never seen Katie Chang in anything else. I don't really think she's done a lot, but she plays Rebecca, who is based on Rachel Lee, who's the real person. I thought she was very good. She's very good at being very cold and very. I don't even know how else to describe it as like. There's one scene where they've. After the whole Audrina thing, it's been aired on the news or whatever, and they're like, hey, we got to slow it down. And it's just the three of them sitting like on the beach, it looks like. And she's just like, oh, I want to go to Rachel Bilson's. Like, she wants to like steal from her. And he's like, no, like, I think we should like tone it down a little bit. And she does this thing where it sounds like complete manipulation. It's so creepy where she's like, come on, I want you to go. Like, you're like my best friend. And like, she knows that's what she needs to say. In order to get him to comply. She does stuff like that is so creepy because it's so like real.
Manipulation, 100%.
Yeah. And the real girl apparently was very much like that. She was very like, and also very obsessed with Lindsay Lohan. That was like that scene where she was like, have you talked to any of the victims? And he said, we've spoken to all of them. And she's like, really? What did Lindsay say? That girl really said that. That she really said that to the detective. And he was like, what? Like,
it's psychotic to a degree.
I thought she did a really good job. I mean, it's interesting that, she hasn't really done a lot since this movie, but she was really good in this.
Yeah, she was really good. And like on that note, weird that because her performance is great, but one of the scenes involving Katie Chang that stuck with me the most is like when they're sitting down in court, like towards the end when they're ready for the
Oh,
trial to begin, and she just
yeah.
doesn't even look.
Look
All
at
she has
him.
to do is acknowledge them, and she does not look at
And just
anybody
look
to her
straight
left.
ahead. Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
She's like,
man.
because none of these people were friends. I mean, like they, you know,
Right.
ran the same
Friends of
circles and
convenience. Yeah.
yes, very much so. But you mentioned that the character that Israel plays, Mark, you said that you probably was of the bunch, the one that you probably latch onto the most.
Definitely.
Why was that for you? I mean, I can guess why compared to everyone else because they're pretty trash, but like
yeah, no, he's like the only character I think that we really see with a semblance of like morality and a little bit of remorse. He definitely portrayed as like I think the main, like along with Rebecca, Katie Chang's character, but I think we do see it. We spend the most time with Mark, I would say. But yeah, no, I think oddly enough, like hadn't really reflected on it until you'd asked, but I think it is just because that we can kind of see that there's a guy that's he's new to the area, doesn't have any friends, he's going to a new school, he kind of gets in over his head with the group of friends that he falls in with, and trying to just stay afloat and go along with the crowd, and it's just something that you can really relate to. So yeah, no, he was definitely a character that I relate, and he has glimmers and moments where that he is enjoying what he's doing, but also on the other side that he knows it's wrong.
There's the whole like I think webcam like drop it low smoking weed thing where he's like it's like doing the Chris Brown song. I was like, yeah, he's enjoying it.
He's
enjoying
100%.
that part of it.
Yes. Thought it was hilarious. He's wearing scarves all the time too.
Yeah, like, always. Yeah.
There were some fashion choices. I was like, man, that's really what the late 2000s were like.
Yeah,
like, yeah.
Fedoras. There's a lot of fedoras.
Yeah, man. Jeez.
I'm a victim of fedora.
Hey, some people can pull it off.
I used to wear them a lot back in the day. Yeah, it definitely had its time. It was definitely during the whole like Future Sex Love Sounds, Justin Timberlake era.
Yes, you know what, he is to blame.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting how this little crime spree starts with Mark and Rebecca just by checking cars, which I guess they did in real life too. They were just so this must be the difference between staying in a really rich area of town. I've never left my wallet in my car. And I don't know any girls that leave their purses in their car.
Yes, that's crazy. So I'll leave mine, but I religiously lock my car. I'd lock it, even though it's very safe and secure. But I will leave my wallet in there. But yeah, no, movies like this make me want to change my habits.
When they're like walking down that street, and he's like, "What?" And she just and what I like about the movie, and I know it's a criticism of it too, is the very kind of flighty, nonchalant, like, "Hey, do you want to go check cars?" And he's like, okay, sure.
He doesn't even know what it means at first. Like, what do you mean?
I've had people complain that like it comes with a note, but like imagine just being a teenager and you have nothing else to do, and this is what you're suggesting to your new friend. I think it would get brought up that way. It's like, hey, you want to do this? Like, whatever. Yeah. And judging from what we learn about her throughout the movie, she has a very blasé, view on like everything that they're doing. But I was like, you're going around opening people's cars. They were pulling out. Like, there was someone's wallet that had cash in it, and they just took it. She took someone's purse, credit cards. I was like, and some of the doors were locked, but a lot of them were unlocked. And I've never, I don't know, man. I mean, you say, but you lock your car, so at least there's that.
I lock every door behind me when I go anywhere, or if I leave any valuable that can be locked. 100%. It's something that I understand too. It's like just not as culturally like accepted or normative to do in the United States, which is always, I mean, obviously probably different regions, different there's a different outlook on that, but it's always been something that has blown my mind. Like, people will steal. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And I guess the first real home they walk into is actually someone that he knows, Evan. And they just casually walk in and just take shit. And she even took his car.
Yes, they take the Porsche out of the driveway.
They take the Porsche
out of the driveway. What are you doing? She's, come on.
She's like, oh, I grabbed them on the way out. Where'd you get the keys?
Just so nonchalantly, like very entitled, and like as if not even considering they're gonna get caught.
And they are joyride, and like you get a sense of like they're buying all this stuff with like stolen money, stolen credit cards.
Right.
That whole montage of them trying on stuff.
Yes.
It also shows how like there's this childlike thing attached to it too. They're still teenagers. Oh, you look really great in that. Oh, that's really cute. Wear this. Like, they're not understanding like the gravity of what they're doing. And I mean, they haven't even gotten to the real gravity of what they're doing. But I mean, it's the start of it, and you get a 100%. Sense of like this is how they think. They're just like they don't really think they did anything wrong. I mean,
Right.
especially her. I mean,
Just
he has
kids in the candy store.
yeah, pretty much. And then they have that first adventure to Paris Hilton's house, which apparently that's how they did it in real life. They looked up like, oh, she's gonna be out of town this weekend.
Smart, I guess.
I mean,
I think call something like that smart.
I think the way it's reported now, you don't really know about a lot of celebrities' whereabouts. Probably a lot to do with this.
I would imagine.
And I don't think this could happen today because like in the world we live in, where almost everyone has like a Ring camera or something, like it like 2008, 2009, different
the last
time. I think
era where you could really get away with something like this for so long.
What did you think about how like that first scene where they go to her house and they're just kind of casually walking through it and just admiring everything, but just taking random stuff? Were you just like,
I couldn't believe like that there was not a security system. There's not any sort of countermeasure to somebody with all this wealth and all these valuables and someone who's so high profile. You'd think that when you buy that house in Calabasas or the Hollywood Hills, that those things are coming. The next thing you purchase is a security system. It was so beyond me, like why that wasn't more of a staple. I mean, granted, then you do have some of the celebrities that do have like some of the inside the house camera footage, like you mentioned, but just I just couldn't believe it. It does truly feel like a symptom from a bygone era, because I can't help but think that is so much more normalized now. I wouldn't really know, but no, I was just very perplexed at the ease at which they were able to pull this off.
Yeah, I mean,
were you surprised, like living near, like kind of close to there? Like,
I remember being surprised that a celebrity of her stature, like Paris Hilton, would leave a key under her mat. But but she's also, I guess, never been burgled before this, so I mean, I don't know. Right? Like,
probably didn't think anyone had the balls to do it, right?
The real Nick Purgo said that she would have, like, in some of the purses in the closet, she would have $100 bills in there. Like, we would have like maybe $5 or $10 in our like wallet, but it'd just be like a bunch of it. And they were like, it was just like chump change. And that's like, and they were able to get away with taking from her for so long because she has a lot, and they took stuff that she wouldn't notice really.
Right.
Because she has a lot. At first, because she has a lot. And that was the crazy thing about it, is that it was so easy, and that you have so much stuff and you're that rich that it took several attempts on your house.
I think they mentioned they're there eight times. It becomes like they're fucking hanging.
They basically hang out there. There's certain scenes where they're just lounging. Like, do you want to go to her club room?
Who's in the stripper pole, hanging out in her like disco room? Like what the hell?
It's one of the one that always gets me. It's like one of the, I think when they bring Taissa Farmiga's boyfriend, the Hispanic guy, and he's like, well, "You've been here how many times?" And I think Emma Watson is sitting down and she's just like chilling. Like, she's not even, it's not like in any rush to get out. They're just like, yeah, we've been here before, like whatever. And like, I thought that was just so funny because they treated it as like, yeah, this is our friend's house, we're just like paying a visit.
Like, it's so nothing to even shake a stick at. Also, on the note of Taissa Farmiga, super cool to see her in this movie. I didn't realize that her career even went back this far. For those who might recognize the name but aren't sure, this is the younger sister of Vera Farmiga of the Conjuring fame. And it's really cool how much they look alike. It's like seeing a younger Vera Farmiga on screen.
It really is.
But I didn't know she was in this movie until I threw it on. I was like, oh, that's awesome that she's in this.
She's good. Awesome. She's good in the movie. She's probably one of the characters that you would find annoying.
Not nearly as much as some of the others. I was just kind of like, I kind of was more supportive of her just because I was like happy to see her in the movie. I like her, so she's not annoying me that much. And I like Emma Watson, but god damn it, she got under my skin.
All right, this will be a good time, I guess, to introduce the other members of the Bling Ring. So we have Emma Watson, who plays Nicolette Nikki Moore. She's based on Alexis Neers. Taissa Farmiga, as we mentioned, as Sam Moore, based on Tess Taylor, and Claire Julien as Chloe, based on Courtney Ames. These three are probably certainly caricatures a bit, but the thing is, the fact that I'm familiar with Alexis Neers and was familiar with that reality show,
right?
Emma Watson nails it, right? Like, really nails who that person is.
So good for her then, because she
researched her. She researched her. She said Emma Watson listened to a lot of Britney Spears when they were doing this movie because she really felt like that was like the vibe, and also Emma Watson's not a club girl, so this is like not. This was very far removed from who she is as a person, which is why she wanted to be in it, and she wanted to work with Sofia Coppola too. They really wanted all unknown people for the movie, but they needed a name, and Emma Watson was like interested in doing it, so they were like, all right, cool, let's do it.
She does a good job with the American accent too.
Yeah, very good at the whole like LA, like
man.
There's certain times in the movie where I was like laughing, and I was like, I'm sure Jackson's cringing, but I was laughing because I hear it a lot, you know.
Yeah, like, fair enough. And see, this is completely not. I don't encounter this ever. But yeah, no, almost every line she delivered, which not against her, but her character, made my ears bleed. I was just like, oh my god, it hurts.
There are just like certain girl things that I thought was funny. Like there's certain scenes where like Taissa Farmiga is like trying on, or they're all trying on outfits.
Yeah,
and,
I know what you're saying.
And then like she's looking at her outfit, and Taissa Farmiga basically insults her outfit, and then she looks at Taissa Farmiga who's wearing like leopard and zebra, and she's just like leopard and zebra. And, like I could hear one of my girlfriends just saying that if she saw that on 100%. Someone, and
then Mark said a backdrop like, yeah, you got to choose one. You can't.
You got to choose one. You can't do both. Yeah. And then also that scene is interesting too, because it seems like her desire to want to go rob at Paris's house is something as fighty as like, I can't figure out what I want to wear to this thing.
Right.
So and thinking again like a teenager would think. So let's go to Paris's house so I can get some stuff.
See what she's got. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, those three characters are probably the more, they don't have a ton of character development, even though they have a lot of scenes.
It's true, they don't have much of an arc or development to follow. I never even really noticed that while I was watching it.
Also Leslie Mann, who plays her mother, very very much like the mother on the reality show. Like she nailed that too. The whole the secret stuff and like all the vision boards and all that. Their mom was like that in real life.
God.
I mean, when she was like, what do we admire about Angelina Jolie? And Taissa Farmiga's like her husband. And then she's like, okay. And she's like, okay, something else. And she's like, her hot bod.
Her hot bod. And it's that comment that she says, okay, well, that's not really a characteristic, but her husband was like.
By the way, though, I know we should really talk about Emma Watson is gorgeous in this. I didn't really realize how, I mean, like she looks the part. Like she looks very LA. You don't get a sense that this was once Hermione at any point.
I know, right? No, she
watching
the movie, different.
Which is why I've actually really liked her. You know, even though it's kind of limited, her post like Harry Potter career, because she's done some interesting stuff afterwards. But yeah, those three characters. I mean, you already said that Nikki was hard to kind of stomach, but
hard to stomach is great.
Compared to our two maids, like, what do you think about the rest of the crew?
So fan of Mark despite his deplorable actions. He's not as hard to get behind. Rebecca was cold. Nikki was by far the worst for me. I mean, again, praise of the performance is nothing against Emma. She does it so well that you love to hate what you're seeing out of her. I honestly like the character of Sam, Taissa Farmiga's character. Beyond that, other than like the rest of the family, so we don't see a lot of the younger sister Emily. We do, I think. Leslie Mann. I was trying to think of her name the whole time. It wasn't until the credits rolled. I was like, that's who it is. Yeah. She's another, like, she's just her daughter's cut right from the same cloth as her. Yeah. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of characters you really follow or that appear very many times. They might have a scene here or there.
Yeah.
But I do think that the core three do a good job. Like they carry the movie, but granted, this is a movie that deserves its hour 30 runtime. It could not be longer than this. It could even be a little shorter. But I was wondering what you thought about that, because it is, the length was long. Good. It flew by too, but it needed another minute more. I would be like, You're
like, no.
But I'm happy being with these people for as long as we are.
Yeah, I mean, there's an interesting bunch, and the marketing I guess to be fair to A24.
What was that like?
It was really good. The trailers were good, but they did center a lot of the imagery around Emma Watson. So there was a misconception that she was the star of the movie. Right. She's in a lot of scenes. Like she's in the bulk of the movie, but she's certainly not she's not the lead. Right. No. But I think even critics that didn't really love the movie liked her because they were like, "Oh, this is just so different from the stuff she's done before," and she was really committed to getting that right. She got the voice down, the mannerisms down. I also thought that her and Taissa Farmiga worked really well together too. I liked their stuff, even some like when they're like stealing from Paris's house, and I think she's like pulled out a dress, and she was like, no, that color looks awful on you. Like, I want, like, they were like going back and forth about that.
Yeah.
There was some stuff in there that I thought they were good with together, and I also thought, even though the club stuff was probably a little cringy, just watching underage people hang out and get bottle servers and drink, it's very accurate depiction of what that looks like.
I can imagine. Yeah. Is it as cringy as it looked in the movie?
And even like, you know, I was just laughing because it's even true today. Just watching when they're all barely talking to each other, they're on their phones most of the time, and then the only time they do interact with each other sometimes, like, hey, 1 second, like, take this picture, and like they're all taking like selfies with each other, like,
yep.
That is the extent of what they care about, and
100%. And it's definitely a symptom of that time too.
Yeah,
and it didn't take long for that to become. Look at even how worse that is nowadays. It's funny because like phones and whatnot were still a relatively new thing back then, and yet it latched on. Like that sort of behavior was pretty much instantaneous with the rise of cell phones and social media and whatnot.
Yeah,
but
it's interesting too, because I've heard this criticism a lot. That one I read, the last one about, you know, just about the characters being unlikable and how ambiguous the movie is towards what they're doing. I certainly don't think it. Well, maybe you'll have a different opinion. I don't think it glamorizes it to the point where it's like, hey, you guys should do this. It does show there's consequences to what they're doing. There is an argument by some that have seen it that the movie doesn't show those consequences enough, where it's like kind of like the fallout is really kind of squished into those final, like,
very much so,
almost like 10 minutes of the movie, I guess.
If that,
it feels like that. I mean, that was if I have a complaint, it feels like the whole, like, getting caught feels a bit rushed,
right,
compared to all the build-up to, you know, we watched them like break into numerous homes, and then like it's like, all right, well, now it's like the movie was like, oh wait, it has to end, so like we have to, like, you know, wrap this all up real quick. And that's my only real complaint about it, is that I think it does rush their punishment.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, it's funny because I noticed too, like, even like the sentences that the judge gives out, she like clearly says, she gets through the first two, the whole, like, the what you've been charged with, how much time you're gonna do, and the fine, and then like the other 3 or 4 that she still has to get out, it's edited and cut where she doesn't even finish the whole thing. I'm like, hey, they're really not. It's like they almost don't really give a shit about if the audience knows, like, the time or the fines that these people end up paying. You get the first 2, which are quite significant, but no, you're right. Very, very much not shoehorned, but glossed over very quickly near the end. But I didn't get the feeling that they were glamorizing. I just felt like innately the audience isn't supposed to think that this is like acceptable behavior, or like think that this is something that was being glamorized. That was just kind of like an objective portrayal of what was it like behind the scenes when this was going on. But I think they also could have done a better job at kind of whatever the opposite of glamorization is.
Yeah, too. I feel you. Yeah, I feel you on that. What about you know, we were talking about Sofia Coppola and just visually some of the stuff she was doing. I thought there was some very unique choices, like filmmaking wise, to kind of depict what they're doing. Like, I actually really like the opening of the movie, where you don't really know what's going. You're just watching them like break into that first house initially, and it's just really quiet until they get the door open, and then that big song kind of cues up the.
Yes, that was it was a slick auditory edit.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. And I like how, like, the opening credits go over, like, you know, just basically the crime stuff, like all the evidence that the police have collected, all the stuff they've stolen. I thought that was a really good opening, like, visual cue. And then
agreed.
I also when they're robbing Audrina's house and it's just from a distance, and I thought that was like probably the best visual thing in the movie.
Which Sofia Coppola actually like was debating on cutting out of the movie. It was, I think, if the cinematographer convinced her to leave it in, and then I think since then it's become one of the more like iconic, if you could call it that, shots from the movie.
From the film. Yeah. I guess. I mean, I think she might have felt like it slowed things down, because you didn't really see what was going on inside the house.
It was a nice change of pace, because you see the first like 3 houses before that shot they break into. It's all the same. You see them enter, you see them, you know, peruse through the stuff, comment on what's there, and then leave. Yeah. And it's like, okay, it's nice to see this from a different angle and like not really follow them. It's cool because the house is all glass, so you can see them when they open the slide door, turn on the lights, go up the stairs, enter the room, take some stuff, and then retrace all their steps until they're out of the house. That was a great way of showing how quick and efficient they were too, when they weren't taking their time to to hang out in the closet and party. So I thought
Very-
that was a great decision.
I also thought visually too is a good way. It's almost like you would be like a voyeur in the way that like Audrina might have seen that kind of image, like from like a security like footage. Like that's how she
Right.
would kind of see it from like. So I thought that was kind of like an interesting way to show it as well. And just like it's lit really cool too. It's just like a really
Yeah.
cool visual scene. And like you said, yeah, you've already had like a sort of sameness from watching them go in and out of houses already that they couldn't possibly do it the same way again. And they kind of I think it's funny when Nikki, when they bring her little sister and Katie's like, wait, who is this? And she was like, oh, this is my sister. She's like, well, how old are you? And she's like, 13.
13.
Oh,
And then
okay,
it's
can you
not
crawl through that?
mentioned
Yeah, can you crawl through that doggy door?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, but again, it just shows how like, yeah, they don't care, dude. They
Even another scene that is like just the significance of it is very much glossed over, and I feel like this is like due to like how insignificant the characters thought of it. But the car crash they're involved in, where one of the Chloe gets the DUI, and like all that's really mentioned of it is like how they said her. I can't remember the word she uses, but like her like levels and indicating like the
like the
drugs
fucking
and stuff,
roof or
and it's just,
something.
like, exactly. Like off the fucking charts, and it's like almost like a badge of honor sort of thing.
And then she
it's
was like, I think she said something along the lines, I have to pick up trash for fucking ever. Like,
yeah, exactly. It's like that's
Yeah,
what you're
she-
taking away from this. Okay,
that's the takeaway. But then again, that's that's the
Yeah.
lifestyle they were leaving, dude. I mean, they just didn't care. Visually though, I thought the car crashing was actually really good. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, the
really
camera's
feel like you were in it with them.
yeah, it did. When the camera's inside the car in the passenger seat, I'm assuming it's looking at the driver. You don't get any indication what's about to happen, and then she's just singing along with the music, and all of a sudden you get a little flash of headlights coming at the side before you get T-boned, and then it's over as soon as it happened.
I also thought, I mean, it's just to show like what these characters are like. It's after Katie and Mark find like the biggest bag of cocaine, just like ridiculously large bag of cocaine. But then they have them driving around. You could tell they've been high, and they're just like singing along to this like Kanye West Rihanna song, and and I thought she did a really good job of being like, you could tell that she was high. And,
right.
But like, there's scenes that might feel pointless if people are like, okay, this is really move the story along, but it is giving you a glimpse of like who these people were, and I think that's why it's ultimately important overall for the film.
It's not taking up too much time either. You're not really out anything just by a few second clips of showing them use drugs. I think it was important for their characters.
By the way, I mean, I grew up in LA. I never saw cocaine when I was 16, 17 years old. So I guess it must be like a time, maybe certain groups, I don't know.
Well, I guess they like jacked that out of a car too. So I feel like it's kind of
that is true.
Stumbled across too.
Yeah.
Probably get their hands on some weed like they do a few times.
And they were just doing this openly at the clubs too. It was like crazy.
Yeah,
they had that one montage towards the end where it's like to this like EDM song where they have them going back and forth from like doing coke, and then like and then you're kind of see them putting the Facebook stuff together where they're about to get caught, and they have like the voiceovers of the girl saying like, oh, she said, actually also how that happened too. They were talking about it too much at the party, and
I figured that would be a factor.
And they got an anonymous tip for people who were at the party, a bunch of anonymous tips for people who were at those parties that. So, I mean, yeah, most criminals
bound
get
to
caught
happen
because they talk too much.
Blabbermouths, too cocky.
I also thought another good visual scene. It's Katie and Mark are in the car. And it's nighttime and it's like really quiet. And he basically says like something along the lines, "If we weren't friends anymore, would you like rob me?"
From me? Yeah.
Steal from me. And you get a sense of what that relationship where feel like she's just gaslighting him again, just lying to him.
Yeah,
like,
I would never do that to you.
I would never do that to you. And like you could tell like that's the moment where like it's not all fun and games anymore. And because she gets a little mean with him when I think they're at which house I think it's Megan Fox and Brian Austin Green's house, where he's like, I hear helicopters, and she's like, well, you're in LA, of course you hear helicopters, don't be such a little bitch. And like she's starting to like be mean to him.
Yeah.
And then
she's
of course
constantly telling him to chill out and not worry about it. Yeah.
And that's what you kind of tell that she doesn't care about being his friend. Like this is like a means to an end for her.
It's funny because it genuinely seems like she does at the beginning. She's the first person to introduce herself to him. She kind of helps him out, get around the school, and then invites him out right away. It's like, that seemed genuine, but it doesn't last. Yeah,
it doesn't last at all. And then also that's when Emma Watson's character finds the gun This is when I got annoyed with Taissa Farmiga because this scene, like, I mean, yeah, they're teenagers. Yeah, I get it. I just remember being so frustrated. I remember in the theater being frustrated where he's like, hey, stop pointing at me. Is it loaded? She's like, oh, I don't know. Like, is it? I don't know. And she's like pointing it at him. And then when he's like, hey, and then she gets all mad, like, don't fucking touch me. Like, and then she says something like, did you just push a girl?
Right. I thought her acting in that scene was great. I was like, it
is good.
You can
it's
tell
annoying,
how,
but it's good.
It is annoying. And it's like, it's actually, it comes at an interesting time. I literally just took a firearm safety course, like not that long ago. And so I was fresh off learning all about, standard gun safety. So I thought that in that scene, she does a great job of like just a young person who stumbled across a gun can be completely infatuated like with the power that it brings, and she's like so careless and reckless with it. I thought she did fantastic handling it, and then of course they actually shoots it off when her
she pulls it out with her boyfriend. Now we know the gun was loaded, so like he had every reason to worry about you pointing it in his face. I do. I'll step back a bit. I don't want to say I said it was annoying, but it is good acting though. She was very
good acting, but annoying behavior. 100%.
Annoying behavior. I thought she was really good because I felt like that is something like a teenager might do if they found something like that and who was kind of reckless and have a care in the world. I thought that was a really good job on her part in that scene in particular.
Agreed.
But yeah, I think that house where they break into that, as you can tell, that's where things are going awry within the group a bit. And then by the time they get to Orlando Bloom's and Miranda Kerr's, they're just full on stealing Rolexes and art pieces.
They're not even trying to hide it anymore.
Not even trying to hide it anymore whatsoever, which is crazy to me because I guess, I mean, I'm not a criminal, so I don't know how brazen I would get, but they get like pretty like, I mean, if you're not getting caught, I guess you just
your confidence would go up. It makes sense, but I'm the type I'd be living with like my head behind my shoulders for the rest of my life. I could not stomach doing what they're doing. It's just too much. And the fact too that he only sells the Rolexes for $5,000 to that guy at the club. It's like, oh my god.
Who is Gavin Rosdale, which is the lead singer of Bush, is the guy who plays like the club dude.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
Used to be married to Gwen Stefani back in the day. Yeah, I love when he says like, well, he can get more for that. He's like, well, not stolen ones, and he's like, okay. he just accepts the $5,000. Like, all right, cool.
Fair enough.
I also love visually because as you can see, the whole group is like gone into this whole like excess of like stealing all this stuff. When they have like the slow motion walking shot of them walking with their Starbucks to like to the Kanye West Power song.
Yes,
I was like, I just thought that. I mean, that's how they feel. That's how they would feel in that moment. Just like
ballers.
We're ballers. Yeah. I just love that, like little things like that Sofia Coppola does in this. That you can tell that she's having fun with.
Totally.
The material, because like I think I feel like the second, like towards the end of the movie, Emma Watson's character kind of takes over a little bit, where there's a lot of stuff with her family and it almost seems like they're poking fun at it. But if you watch the clips from the reality show,
right,
it is very accurate to how
I have no doubt
it worked and how that was. And then the interview that she's giving to the lady from Vanity Fair, apparently that's how that played out too in real life, where she's like trying to talk and then her mom would interrupt and she's like, "Can you please?" Like just like,
"This is my interview."
This is my interview.
Not and then when spoiled brat.
I was laughing when she was like, "Well, like, what country is your charity doing work with?" And she's like, "Well, I'm not really sure of the country."
Right.
And then you're sitting there probably just like, no.
Like the archetypal, like miscongeniality, like empty-headed girl. You know what I mean? Like just she does such a good job of portraying that. And no, the whole family was tough to watch, but you totally believable that that there are people out there like that.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it, so it's
there you
go. It's definitely, but I mean, to her credit though, I mean, I think Emma Watson, she kills it. It's really,
she does do a great job.
It's a really
too good a job.
Too good a job to the point where you to the point where you didn't like her at all.
It's not her. It's not her performance I don't like. It's just her. She does such a good job playing such a detestable character that it's like.
And she really gets the voice right when they're like sitting at the dinner table. and she's like, well, we gotta go because like we have to like go meet this like manager
And he knows a lot of
photographers, and they kind of like switch off talking that way. She's like, it can just be really good for us. And then when they ask her like what like production company does Mark's dad work for, she's like, I don't know, remember, like
something international.
Yeah. But like, you know, it's a cringe scene to some who probably like, oh, why is this important? But that's who they were, dude. I mean, this is the characters they were playing. And I just love when her mom's like, oh, did you get a new dress? And she's like, it was probably one she stole.
Yeah, 100% it was. Yep.
Like, it's so, yeah.
They are pretty brazen when you think about it.
Yeah, man. I mean, and honestly, Rachel Bilson I don't think has seen the film, because I think they actually stole something of like sentimental value that belonged to her grandmother. So she was like, I really don't want to relive that experience, because it was everyone. I mean, a lot of people in the, I guess, listening to this story had a hard time feeling sorry for the celebrities because they're like, oh, they have so much money, blah 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 blah. But Rachel Bilson was like, this is a violation. Like, you're stepping into my house. I like, and going through my stuff. I don't like know who you are. And 100%. Like, so no matter how rich they were, I mean, I even say that about Paris Hilton. Like, any of these people, like, it is a violation of their personal space.
Absolutely. And everyone's entitled to feel that way, regardless of, you know, how wealthy they are. Like, this is like, I can only imagine Paris Hilton finding out that it was 8 times all these strangers were combing through her intimate belongings. Completely unbeknownst to her. I'm like, that's
they found
terrible.
all kinds of stuff too. Like, I watched a documentary on this. They found cocaine, and then it was funny when they talked about that in the documentary. It cut to like Paris Hilton's representative said that they did not like basically denounce the whole cocaine thing,
right?
And you know, and then they said they found like compromising pictures, which they kind of alluded to in the movie where they find the Polaroids that they are looking at. They're like, oh, what? And they're like, oh, what's on her face? And like, they're like, it's, yeah, they found a lot of stuff like that and stole a lot of that stuff too. Like, they kept it. So yeah, I can see why. I mean, Paris Hilton, of course. I mean, if Sofia Coppola asks, can we shoot in your home?
Right.
I guess, and you're Paris Hilton, and like your brand is, you know, your brand maintaining relevancy, then I guess you let them shoot in your house, even though the original 8-time attack on your home was a violation. I mean, I guess it's like a full circle, taking back the power kind of thing, I guess.
Totally.
I don't know.
Absolutely. That's a good way of looking at it.
Oh, I thought that was cool that they actually were able to do that. I mean, it makes it more authentic that they shot in her home, and since that was the main target of most of their burglaries, I thought it was cool that she allowed them to do that.
100%. Nice for her to cooperate.
Yeah. And God, I'm trying to think of there's other, so like the stuff towards the end, especially like, I would have liked to have spent more time with, because I think Katie is just a fascinating character, even though we don't really learn a lot about her. And I get why there's a lot of focus towards the end on Emma Watson, because it's Emma Watson, and of course she's playing someone who at the time was on a reality show on E. Like, Alexis Nyers was, you know, her family was on this show, and it was about their like, you know, living this sort of like all reality shows back then, this kind of like celebrity life, and just trying to be normal and all this kind of other stuff, and it's really crazy world that we live in. And the whole time Alexis Nyers was also like addicted to drugs. Like, she was going through a lot while this was happening, and depending on who you believe, she was only at one or two of these break-ins. And then Nick was like, no, like, they interviewed Nick Prugo, who Mark is in the movie, and they're like, no, like, she was there a lot, but she tries to like, and she even does it in the movie where it seems like she tries to like distance herself from, like, you know, how
which is only natural, right. She's like, I'm looking forward to my day in court. Like, come on, yes,
dude. And I was also cracking up. It's good acting on her part when she gets arrested. Because this actually is what she said on the show when she's getting arrested. She's like, "Mom, call the lawyer." Call the lawyer.
I want to talk to my mom. And then she's like, when she gets set in the car, she's like, "Ow, you're really hurting me." She's like, "You're hurting me," and then she's like, "Ow!" Like, she kept going on about that. I was like, "Oh, come on, you are fine."
You're like, "Stop it."
Yeah, no, I was like, kind of cracking up, kind of cringing, more cringing, but like in a respectful way.
Actually, the when they arrest all of them, some of those scenes are actually really good for totally different reasons. When they go to arrest Mark, and the dad's like, "What's this all about?" And that one guy comes out with the evidence bag with the pink high heels and just flashes it at the camera, basically.
Yes,
I thought that was hilarious.
I thought that was very unfortunate timing too.
And I like when it's at Nikki's home. And they have that little terrier little dog, and then the cops come in and they're like, "Control your animal, ma'am." It's just like this tiny dog.
But it's
and honestly,
super annoying and yappy too.
The cop who arrests her in the movie was actually the real cop that arrested her in arrested Alexis in real life, which became a big issue for the movie because they were like, "Why is the guy who kind of was involved in this real case also consulting and working on this film?" Because there is a reason why the names have to change, because this was still like an active case when parts of it were active when they were like writing the movie, and so they had to like change names and stuff. So the fact that he was a consultant for some of this and was there,
interesting.
The district attorney said that's really problematic, and we need to discuss what he can actually do and say when it comes to trial. And but they were saying like even like the people that worked on this case were like almost fame seeking a bit too. And there's a documentary on Netflix about it. Even the lawyers were like, a lot of the lawyers.
There is. I was gonna say this would be great as a Netflix doc. I don't know why I wouldn't have assumed this was already turned into one, but good to know.
Yeah, like
what it's called.
I gotta look it up, but it's interesting because it's presented because it's mostly Nick Prugo and Alexis Neer's perspective. Right. And you're really, while you're watching it, you got to determine like who's telling the truth. And it seems like even after all these years that like both of them are still spinning kind of tales of like who was involved with what and why they did what they did and like who was the ringleader, like all this other stuff. And it really was when they start interviewing some of the lawyers, and then like when they talk about that cop, they were like, yeah, everyone involved in this case seemed like they wanted their little 15 minutes too. It became that's the
nature of that area.
They said that they almost like lost control of the case because of that, because everyone was just looking for their like piece of like fame from this, which people that are supposed to be doing the right thing are also heavily involved,
caught up in the fame. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was pretty just interesting. And like the real life stuff that kind of is involved in this movie, because it feels like when you hear this story, like when this was a big story, it felt like a movie. It didn't feel like something that was real. Probably. It was like, I was like, you can't make this up. I guess like what? And
so more like honestly like a weird sort of alternate reality TV kind of sort of story. Very sensational and
like playing out that way. A movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like really played out that way, like in as they were kind of going through it, like beginning when they started it and all the way through the trial, and then I guess leading up to the creation of the movie too. Like and actually the Netflix doc is called The Real Bling Ring Hollywood Heists, in case anyone is interested in looking at it. I think after watching the movie, like if you watch this, you'll be like, it'll like fill in some blanks too. And I do agree. I think this story is better suited for it is such a sensational story that it can work as a feature film. But more can be covered in a documentary on something like this. I thought as well.
Agreed. I feel like it's sometimes like this can work against a movie. Maybe it wouldn't work out well, but I feel like this movie could have used a little bit more of some dramatization, a little bit more dramatic flair. Stuff, even if it's stuff that didn't happen, I think that could have like really would have added maybe a little bit more to this movie, especially if it's like accompanied by a fairly accurate documentary.
Right.
Just something to think about, I guess. I'm glad that exists.
Yeah, I guess the stakes. The only time it really the tension. There's the scene with the gun that feels like there's like some tension involved in that.
Right.
But you're right. I think a lot of times the stakes aren't raised too high.
There's not really too much. Then they run into the security guard, who you don't even really see on camera. They're just ducked behind a bush and wait for them to move on. And that's one of the more tense scenes in the movie, if you will. But other than that, they don't run into a whole lot of problems until they're caught in the end.
Yeah, I did love when they see the news footage, and the dad knocks on the door because he's like, "Oh, what's up? What's going on in there?" And then
Right.
Emma Watson's like, "Oh, everything's fine, everything's good."
Yeah.
And then when she shuts the door and she's just frustrated, she's like, "You're stressing me out."
Yeah. Not to mention she's also just holding a lit cigarette behind her back.
Yeah.
Like,
And
how does he not smell that?
well, it's funny because she does this thing to like blow the smoke away and then just hides it behind her back. I'm like, you
Yeah.
would still smell it, like
Yeah,
whatever.
100%.
But yeah,
and I think Mark's dad too was played by another Coppola. Can't remember his first name, but I wonder what his relation
I think
would
I can
be.
find it.
It's a
It's
Mark
a family
Coppola.
affair. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, nice.
There's a few Coppolas involved in this movie.
Making it a family affair.
Yeah, definitely. Really cool too that Sofia's father, Francis Ford Coppola, the great executive producer. That's super cool. I mean, a little bit of nepotism, but let it slide. That's totally fair. Supportive father.
Throw a little nepotism.
Yeah, no, a little nepotism here and there.
And
okay.
she's proved herself to be
definitely. She's very established by this point, anyway.
to be pretty good, solid filmmaker. This was interesting when this movie came out. It has a 60% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, so it's barely fresh.
Right.
I think because it premiered at Cannes and her name was attached to it, there was expected to be like a better reception for it, like critically. I think the subject matter made it hard, and I think that is what you kind of run into, like with some of the reviews, like for some that liked it, like Entertainment Weekly said, watching the Bling Ring, the audience is invited to understand the impulses of these child woman thieves, even as Coppola stands firmly apart from their craziness and sees them for who they are. So they basically just showing them for who they are is what they respected the movie for. And then the Daily Telegraph said everything comes together for the good here: visuals, performances, a great soundtrack, Coppola's teasing flirtation with yet ultimate lack of commitment to some kind of concrete morality. So like they wanted more of, I guess more of a hard stance on what they're doing.
Okay.
The Hollywood Reporter was less positive. Says Coppola's attitude toward her subject seems very uncertain. There is perhaps a smidgen of social commentary, but she seems far too at home in the world she depicts to offer a rewarding critique of it. It's basically saying that she herself is a bit prestige and that she cannot offer any social commentary. And as far as Watson's performance as Nikki Moore, Richard Roper called her comedic gold. And the Entertainment Weekly said Watson proves that her willingness to take chances is only growing, and that she's an actress serious enough to turn a line like "your butt looks awesome" into something that reveals character.
That was a well delivered line.
I forgot about that. She's like, "How's my butt? Your butt looks awesome."
Awesome. I thought that's the line you were gonna mention when you're talking about Taissa Farmiga dressing up in the clothes. I was like, oh yeah, I remember giggling at that.
Yeah, that was funny because because that's nothing much going on in that scene either, right? They're just kind of talking like,
it's just a glimpse of who they really
she's
are.
Like, you are like, she's changing the top. She's like, I think I like it. Like, show me a different top.
Yeah, that's right. And on that note, though, I feel like Emma Watson's performance is less comedic and more like something that you are supposed to like point at and make fun of who this person really is. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the same sort of thing, but
it feels very like almost satirical the way she's doing it. Like she's almost satirical. like she's making fun of it herself. And I guess like you kind of have to, because this
how can you take that seriously otherwise?
Kind of person. Rolling Stone said Watson is sensational as Nikki, an underage club girl and actress wannabe who lives in the universe of Valley Girl narcissism, eons away from Hogwarts. Even critics who gave the film overall negative reviews singled out Watson for praise. A Toronto Star said the undistinguished young cast of The Bling Ring has just one standout, and that's Emma Watson, who plays one of the most engaging of the juvenile thieves. We know her best as the brainy Hermione Granger from Harry Potter movies, and she can obviously do brainless equally well.
That is fantastic. Honestly, I was gonna say, I was thinking while you're reading that she is as far removed from Hermione Granger in this movie as I think you could possibly get.
I guess that's why she is so good.
I guess so.
The movie was made for, I believe, $8 million.
Okay.
$8.2 million. It made $20 million worldwide, so it made its money back. It never had like a huge like wide release. It was always a smaller.
Which I was surprised that you saw it in theaters. I was going to ask you that earlier until you mentioned that you remember seeing it in theaters. But I was like, I wonder how wide this release would have been. I couldn't imagine it was big.
I remember I saw it opening weekend. So when it that's when like it is actually it's opening weekend in limited release. So we saw it when it was in limited release before it went wide. That limited release, I do remember it being a decent size packed theater because like with smaller movies like that, when you go to like all the way up in LA to go see something like this,
right? It
does attract a decent crowd at least in that weekend.
Okay.
But I knew even though they promoted the hell out of it in a similar way that they promoted Spring Breakers, where they were really focused in on the youth aspect of it, and selling it on that a bit. And I think it worked a little bit in the beginning, but it just wasn't enough to kind of maintain it for like, the rest of that summer.
I see
that it came out. It's at the end of the day, it's still like a small independent movie that just happens 100%. To have a Harry Potter star in it. So it's like that's the only that's the one thing that kind of I think it opened in 23 locations when it first opened. It had a per theater average of $43,879 when it opened initially. Oh, actually, no, sorry. It opened in 5 theaters when it opened in limited release. Sorry. And
wow, that is very limited.
And then it expanded to 650 theaters where it earned $2 million for the weekend on its opening day, actually, and went on to gross $20 million worldwide. It was a bigger hit overseas than it was here. That could be a lot, which is interesting. It could be the Emma Watson factor, I guess.
I suppose.
But I thought it being such an LA story
that's what I'm thinking. Like, would not have expected that
it would do a little better. At the end of the day, I mean, I think the most interesting aspects of it is what you take from it as a viewer. And I've known a lot of people
exactly.
I've known a lot of people, like I was talking about it with Merck too, because he was like, he's like, you really enjoy it. I don't think the movie's great. I just think it's a solid 90 minutes worth of entertainment, right?
Exactly.
And if you lived in the area,
then there's even more value to it.
Yeah. I think that she does some interesting things visually with it to keep things interesting, because like this could be a really it's funny because we talked about that with like something like Dumb Money and like The Social Network, where you take these kind of bare bones true stories and you have to make them pretty interesting visually to like the audience that isn't familiar with offhand about some of this stuff. So I think she does enough for the most part to engage you while you're watching it. But I think the big criticism of it has always been, like, I have a friend that didn't like it because she hated most of the characters, though. She was like, I can't watch something where like I'm watching a bunch of rich kids steal from other rich people. And
I just feel like it's a genuine criticism of the movie itself. What I mean?
Right.
So it's hard to like take that seriously. But I get why you wouldn't want to watch it if it's not your thing, but it's like, it's not a fault of the movie that the characters are so shitty. If anything, it's good on the actors and the writers that they've written a character. Granted, this is an example of real life people, but if those characters have that effect on you, I think that the movie's done its job. Maybe not to the point where you don't want to watch it, but still not a slight against a movie, I don't think.
And also smart of Coppola at the time that she chose most of the kids, the main characters, were the same age as the real kids that were
smart.
for the most part. She wanted them to be a little young, and I'll give the movie credit for this too. They talk like teenagers. I mean, they feel like teenagers. They don't feel like movie teenagers.
Taissa Farmiga was 19.
They feel like, and the way they talk, no matter how cringy it is, it feels very much like how teenagers during that time period,
yes, it does,
would speak to each other. Like I was like laughing because like some of that stuff I still kind of hear. Like that girl Chloe was like,
it was so chill.
She was like, it was so fucking chill. We just walked right in. And then when that one girl Chloe is like trying like on one of Paris's tops, and she's like, "Oh, this looks so I'm like, that's like that's how, and it's like it says something like, "That's so cute." But that's how they like talk. I mean,
very much, and it helps that the movie was only filmed like 5 years after it happened, right? So like they're not that far removed. So that's definitely an advantage.
Yeah, and they did it in LA, and in some cases at the actual homes. Like, so like it there's an authenticity to it. I think that works in its favor. And which can turn some people off. I totally agree with that. I mean, I can see that.
Well, it bothers me when movies don't go for that authenticity. So I like, in this case, I think that was a benefit. There's one small little thing I want to throw out there and see if you caught on to this. Just I had to shout out our girl here. Mika Monroe from It Follows has a very small cameo in this movie. Did you know that?
Shoot, I did not know that.
She's credited as Beach Girl, so I can only assume she's one of the girls early in the movie when they go to smoke at the beach, like in the first 10 minutes of the movie. You're going to go to that party tonight or whatever. I think that's where she is, because I didn't recognize her, but I saw her name in the credits. I'm like, what the hell? Because it'd be the next year that It Follows came out, and that really put her on the map.
Well, hot damn.
Yeah,
I just scrolled up and saw it now. I didn't even realize that. Good find.
I had no idea. Yeah, thanks. I did not recognize her at all. But even though it's funny because It Follows only came out the next year, but she might have been the one in the back that doesn't have any words. I don't know. But good for her. Cool little sneaky cameo.
Yeah, a little sneaky cameo there
for a horror icon.
Yeah,
ready to become one. Yeah,
and also good job too with Sofia Coppola picking mostly unknown people. Other than Emma Watson.
That works.
I guess Taissa Farmiga. I mean, like, American Horror Story, is that going on? Was that going on around for her?
I didn't even know that she was in American Horror Story.
She did she did a few seasons of it. I think that might have been around the same time.
Okay.
So I guess her and Emma Watson would be the name.
Around this time. Yeah.
Did you catch that whole thing in the club where Emma Watson's saying like Jude Law's texting me again?
Yes, I did. I was like, as fucking if. Oh. And she's like, yeah, you texted him 50 times.
50 times.
No, I didn't.
Didn't.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, no, I did catch that. I was like, okay, well, at least if that's to be believed, then they're connected over there.
And then Kirsten Dunst has a little cameo just walking through the club.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That was cool.
And Sofia Coppola connection too. They worked together.
They've worked on a couple, right? Well, Virgin Suicides and
Maria Antoinette, I think.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Right. So that's some fun little stuff. I mean, they had to like get some to kind of add to the whole celebrity culture of it. They had to like get certain people. I know they did want to, like I said, with Rachel Bilson, they tried to consult with every person that got robbed from, and Rachel Bilson was one that was like, oh well, you're gonna make your movie anyway. So
right,
like,
nice of them to consult though.
Thank you, I guess, for but this is I still think it's shitty that this happened to me, and they took stuff that you can't replace like with money. Like, I mean, like,
right, exactly.
In her case,
that stings the most.
Let's see. I'll just see if I can pull. So yeah, for a little tidbit for like the real stuff that was like in general, most of the stuff was stolen from Paris Hilton. $2 million in jewelry, clothing, cash, and other items from her home. Across the 8 times that they broke into her house.
God damn.
Gina Patridge, they entered through an unlocked door, took jewelry, her passport, her laptop computer, and custom fit jeans. The value of what they took estimated to amount to around $43,000. Like we said, they were recorded on Patridge's surveillance videos, which Patridge uploaded to her website. Despite the videos being posted, the burglaries continued after that. Rachel Bilson's home, whoa, okay, I didn't even know this. Rachel Bilson's home was burgled by the group 3 to 6 times during April and May 2009, amounting to between $130,000 and $300,000 of stolen property.
Good range.
Jesus, that is crazy. The Bilson burglaries yielded so much in the way of clothes and accessories that members tried to relieve themselves of some of it by selling it on Venice Beach, which they actually do show in the movie.
They do show it, yeah.
Where they were able to make a few $1,000s off of selling some of her stuff. Orlando Bloom, they stole a large amount of high fashion label clothing, Bloom's vintage Rolex watch collection, Louis Vuitton luggage, and artworks, in all totaling nearly $500,000.
I really hope he got those Rolexes back.
I would hope. I hope so too.
Yeah, doubtful.
Doubtful. Brian Austin Green's home was targeted because, according to Nick Prugo, the real Rachel Lee liked the clothes of his wife at the time, actress Megan Fox. While there, the group also found and took Green's semi-automatic handgun, which police later found in the possession of who would be Taissa Farmiga's boyfriend in the movie.
Oh, okay.
And then they stole $130,000 worth of stuff from Lindsay Lohan's house, and they also had on their list of potential targets Miley Cyrus, Zac Efron, Hilary Duff, and Vanessa Hudgens. They also were thinking of robbing Kourtney Kardashian and Hannah Panettiere. on top of everyone
Holy
else.
smokes. That's funny how Vanessa Hudgens was in an A24, another early A24 release just the year before, and she's on this list. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. Jesus, that is crazy. That's a lot when you like read it like that.
$3 million over like 10 or 11 months. Like that is insane.
Yes, and the real Alexis Nears, like I said, claims to have only been involved in the one robbery at Orlando Bloom's house. Police searched her home and reported that they found stolen items in the possession of Nears, her sister Gabrielle, and their adopted sister Tess Taylor, and that she was caught on camera leaving the scene of the crime with stolen bags. She initially denied any wrongdoing, but later changed her plea in court to no contest. Oh God! And what's interesting is that Rachel Lee, who it's Katie Chang, that plays she plays Rebecca, completely off the radar now. No one knows where she is. Like she,
Really?
no one can find her. No one can find her. And it's interesting because like she's probably, they do consider her the ringleader of the bunch, and she had a lot to say in terms of like I said, who you guys speak to, like what did Lindsay Lohan think, and like all this other stuff.
Right.
But then after this all kind of went to trial, they did their time, and they got out. No one can really find her. Like a lot of people have like tried to look up where she is.
Right.
There's people like Alexis Nears and Nick Prugo who've continued to kind of talk about this, like you should, like the documentary on Netflix. But yeah, like she probably the most interesting one to kind of maybe dive into, because it seemed like there's a lot going on there that even though the movie doesn't spend a lot of time on it, like the way that Katie Chang plays it, you feel like there's so much more in that head of hers than what she's showing. But yeah, that would have been a really interesting thing to find out. Like, what is she up to?
I can only wonder. I don't blame her for falling off the map, and I wouldn't be surprised she like kind of changed her identity or to something of that degree. But
yeah, because I mean, it's hard to come out of this being like, oh, like what do I do now?
That sort of thing follows you.
Yeah, it definitely does. All right, let's see if we could find any other fun facts about this little movie. Prior to shooting, director Sofia Coppola got the cast to fake burgle a house to see what mistakes they would make.
That is genius. That's really good thinking, actually.
Kirsten Dunst's cameo as herself was not part of the original script. Instead, it was incorporated into the film after Dunst visited director Sofia Coppola on set. And like you said, they previously worked together on The Virgin Suicides and Marie Antoinette. This is not really a fun fact for Emma Watson. Emma Watson's wallet was stolen while filming.
I read that as well. That's a weird twist of fate.
And yeah, you said the whole thing about that shot that she almost cut, and it's now the most celebrated shot of the film, which is the robbery of Audrina Patridge's house. Emma Watson says she researched her role by watching a ton of reality TV, which included The Hills, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and television show Pretty Wild, to study Alexis Near's body language and how she acted around people. In addition, she listened to Britney Spears' Femme Fatale 2011 album to get into the mind frame of her character. Commitment.
You did a fantastic job.
Fantastic job.
The girl.
Let's see, is there anything else? Claire Julien, who plays Chloe, was the only cast member who was actually from Los Angeles, and she even helped the others learn the Calabasas dialect. Emma Watson is from England, Israel is from Mississippi, Katie Chang is from Chicago, and Taissa Farmiga is from New Jersey.
Huh. Interesting.
And interesting, one of the real-life Bling Ring members, Diana Tomeo, was written out of the film, the reasons for which remain unknown. I don't know why they actually left her out. Yeah.
Range. I wonder if maybe she didn't... maybe she wasn't convicted on any actual charges or something, or I guess, I mean, anything would be complete speculation if it's not known. That's interesting. I would like to know what her role was, but honestly, good for her not being associated with this. Probably the less association, the better.
Better, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's although the name changing was done for legal purposes and privacy protection, director Sofia Coppola stated another reason for its necessity: making the kids more famous than they already were.
Yeah, wouldn't want to do that.
I don't want to do that. We want to do that. You can tell some facts are just thrown in by fans. This was director Sofia Coppola's third film to feature pole dancing. I don't know.
I saw that too. Like, okay, real fun, worthwhile trivia fact. 100%. I wonder what the other two
are. Viewers, critics, as well as fans and non-fans of Emma Watson commended her acting and her perfection of the California American accent in this film, but also stated that the same accent, which is also dubbed as Valley accent, made her sound more Canadian. I don't know. I'm not Canadian.
I never found that, but I don't know.
You're gonna rewatch some scenes, and be like, well, maybe.
Perhaps.
And then Sofia Coppola had lunch several times with real-life convicted Bling Ring burglar Nick Frank Prugo. The basis of the film's character Mark Prugo and his gang of thieves reportedly stole over $3 million from celebrity houses. After serving a year in jail, Prugo claimed as of May 2013 that he had not seen the film yet. He actually has mentioned that recently that he has not seen the movie.
Oh, okay.
I feel like someone like him might be lying. Oh, I didn't see it, and like
right. But I feel like But I don't know, hard to say because he was the one that kind of felt the most remorseful. So maybe he wouldn't want to revisit that chapter he's trying to forget. But I might be the type too to watch it and then just publicly deny it too if I was involved in that thing. I feel like he would just nag at you. You'd have to know how you were portrayed.
It would have been right, but
100%.
So yeah, this one's considered a little vapid by some in some circles, but like at the end of the day, like what's your like closing kind of thoughts on it, and what score would you give it? Like,
it's hard because again, like I feel like my score, like enjoyment, doesn't reflect. I don't think like the quality of the movie. It's just nothing that I thought was like fantastic. I feel like this would be a movie I would only recommend to somebody if someone that wanted more like knowledge of this particular event in California history. Like if be interesting for like a little case study or something, this would be the perfect movie to like give you some insight on it. So I'd recommend it for that watch, and maybe like just for some Emma Watson performance. This would be a good movie. Also, I think to go back and watch just for like the earlier roles of some people who inevitably became more famous, like Taissa Farmiga comes to mind. Hardcore Makeup Monroe stands that want to go see her for 3 seconds might want to go back and see this. But surprised, honestly, that Israel Broussard, who plays Mark, did he end up going on to do anything else? I thought he was great in this movie.
I know him from the most after this, he was in both of those Happy Death Day movies. He was the boyfriend.
Oh, cool. Okay, gotta look out for him then.
And he was getting that from what I remember.
I have yet to see those, but definitely on my list.
So
yeah, I guess I'd probably give it like I said earlier. I agree with like the ratings of this movie. I would say I would probably give it around a 6. I would say, but not a bad 6. Just like nothing fantastic, but a good one-time watch, and that's nothing wrong with that. Definitely got to see some more Sofia Coppola though. This has definitely woken me up to her. There's lots on her filmography that I want to go out and see. The Beguiled being one that I really, really want to see.
Have you seen Lost in Translation?
No, I haven't, but I've had it for a long time.
I kind of feel like if you watch that, I think if you watch that and then you think about this, it's just I mean, I'm not saying that they're vastly different movies, but you'll be like, this is the same person made this. Like it's just like
strange.
It'll be kind of that kind of I think a little disconnect a little bit.
Definitely. She's very eclectic. I think, I'll give her that.
Yeah, very eclectic filmmaker, and like I like that she it seemed like she just wanted to have a fun time making something, and this was.
And I think she accomplished that. Yeah.
She accomplished it. I'm more of like a 6.57.
Okay,
somewhere in there
for sure. You got the advantage too.
It definitely has flaws. I mean, I think I think, like I said, I think the conclusion is a bit too rushed.
Agreed.
How everything kind of gets wrapped up and everyone gets caught. But I think the movie's probably better for its more isolated moments than like as a whole, if that makes sense.
Agreed. And I think that's kind of like what I was trying to articulate earlier. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and you just hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, and I think it's a breezy 90 minutes. It's it's pretty quick, and it doesn't waste a ton of time getting into the bones of the story either. I mean,
nope.
It starts pretty early. You can argue maybe there's not enough character development, but I think if you were to meet these kids in real life, this is all you would get from them. Completely surface level. So the fact that there isn't a ton of character development, I actually think is a plus for the film itself, for the characters they're trying to portray, because I think they would just be as vapid and superficial as they're presented here. So
it
ends up being a win, I think, in the end.
100%.
As far as but I would. This is a hard one to recommend to a lot of people too, because I've recommended to people who did enjoy it. I think they had fun. A lot of people I know that liked it had fun watching Emma Watson, because it's like it's like Hermione, and like it's cool that she's doing like a more adult. Not like really adult role, playing a teenager, but like a more adult movie than like Harry Potter is. They had fun with it on that level, and of course, if they were familiar with the story, they thought it was interesting. Those who were detached from it, didn't know a lot about it, had the harder time, I think, that I've tried to share the movie with, or like
I see.
It was like, either I get okay, or they just didn't like the characters at all, and they couldn't really get into it. They did like some of the like the visual flair that Sofia Coppola added to it, but
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's I don't
Definitely
think
not a general audience movie, I wouldn't
right.
say.
I also don't think that
Yeah.
every character has to be likable in a film. Like,
No.
I mean, I guess like some people say they need someone they can like grasp onto, like, oh, I need to like you.
And we get that in Mark, and I feel like
get
that's
that
all you
Mark,
really
yeah.
need. Yeah.
Well, sometimes the world's a sea of unlikable people, so like,
Absolutely.
and sometimes movies get made about them. So
Yeah.
there you have it. There you
That's
have
totally
it.
fine. Yeah.
But also interesting too, like going in the early days of like A24. So like it's like the stuff that they
Absolutely.
were putting out back then, and now you in 10 years they've grown tremendously
Exponentially,
as a
absolutely.
distribution studio, and but I think you can even tell even then, like if you look at Spring Breakers, if you look at this, they were still unique ideas and like very a lot of people weren't going to pick up those movies and try to make them, and I'm glad you can kind of see that even in the early days of the stuff they were
100%.
choosing.
This is definitely something any A24 historian should definitely see, as I'm sure they want to see most of their stuff. But this comes even the days before they were even a production company, when they were just getting off the ground. Like, because Spring Breakers the year before, I think it was like one of their first movies that they distributed.
Right.
So this wasn't far after. So yeah, really cool. And funny to note again the similarities between these two movies. I hadn't even considered that beforehand, but you were so right.
Well,
yeah, it's really cool.
I thought it was interesting too because my buddy David, I went to middle school with, he listens to the show, and he was like,
Right.
when he saw that image of like the anniversary episodes we were coming up with, and he was like, "Didn't you already do the Bling Ring?" And I was like, "I think you're thinking of Spring Breakers, both A24."
Yeah.
He's like, "No, you're right. You're right."
Yeah.
He was like, "It feels like the same," but like
definitely very similar, especially being far removed from them. I can imagine like mixing them up. Yeah.
And honestly, you know what's interesting too? If you were to ask a lot of the cinephile community to name some of their favorite A24 movies, Spring Breakers might be in there on some people's lists,
Right.
but for the most part, you don't find that movie on their top 10 or maybe even their top 50. I don't know. And the Bling Ring isn't on a lot of their lists either. It's really viewed by a lot as like a lesser of their releases.
I can see why. I might be in that camp as well, but that's because they've just gotten so much better with the work that they, especially when they started making movies like around 2016 era. Like those movies have just been phenomenal. So it's nothing against these movies. It's just they've grown and gotten better.
Better movies after that. Yeah.
100%.
I always try to be like, "What about Spring Breakers, man? What about the Bling Ring?" And they're like, "Yeah, all right, man. We know you like it.
Good on,
good on you.
It's good on you to show them some love, though. They definitely need their love, and hopefully, people that have maybe watched this episode that haven't listened to our Spring Breakers episode, go do that, because that even like from my perspective, like that, I enjoyed Spring Breakers more. So if you enjoyed the Bling Ring, if you're following along, go definitely check out Spring Breakers.
Yeah, and that episode did really well for us too. I mean, I don't know. I remember I was like messaging you. I was like, I don't know, is it Selena Gomez or what it was?
Right.
But I think I don't know if this movie in the same way, because I remember we talked about like, I think in the year since Spring Breakers come out that it's been discovered by new audiences and stuff that like, who like Selena Gomez, like Vanessa Hudgens. And then of course, I think right before our episode came out, it was about to be on HBO Max. So
right.
I don't know if the Bling Ring has had that same
I would say Renaissance sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, if you're LA, you know it. If you are, I think that's that's why I asked you when we started if you even heard that story before, and you were like, it's definitely much it feels like a bubble a little bit in which that story happened.
A little bit. Right.
It did make national news and stuff because it was such a big deal, but it but it was very much an
I was
LA
10
story.
When that shit was going on.
If I
was older, I bet I would have heard of it, but
it's interesting that I don't think the Bling Ring has had that same life in the 10 years since it's come out. But maybe with Sofia Coppola having Priscilla come out, people will go revisit some of her
100%.
other movies, and this will be on the list. And I think when you look at her filmography, you're just like, oh, she's done some stuff. She's definitely
100%. This would be something worth checking out too if you like her filmography, definitely. And like it feels like rarely do you get two movies of the same from her. So
right, I agree. Well, thank you again, Jackson, for another anniversary episode.
My pleasure. Thank you for putting me on movies. I love to see something for the first time and be able to talk about it. So,
and also love that you get a very honest take too. You're not like, you don't be like, you're not like, I love it because like I think you might like it. Like it's like,
No, I'm not gonna
that,
fluff it up.
No, don't do it. Don't do that.
That's right. And I know you wouldn't want that out of me. So
no,
yeah,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't.
Honest takes.
Even if you were like, Gaius, that you made me watch 90 minutes of trash, I would be like, okay.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it.
There's no sense of disagreeing and everything all the time, but no, I didn't hate my life watching this movie by any means, but no, it was good to watch, and I'm always down to watch A24. I'll watch anything the studio puts out. So no, thank you for the recommendation. Looking forward to our next one, which I know we got a couple lined up to hopefully get in this week. So
I guess we could just mention some of them. I know we have Out of Sight, which actually the day that we're recording this turned 25 today. Our boy JC Merc with the Movies has been asking about if we were going to do an Out of Sight episode. I love that movie, and he was like, can I please be on if you guys do the movie? So
fantastic. Would love to have him on again.
So he'll be on for that one. And then I know we have Grease coming on the pipeline at some point.
Yes.
And
I turned 40?
45.
45?
So 45. So that should be a fun one because I think throughout this whole show, I haven't really gone into a musical much where we actually like talk about it like that. So that'll be fun.
100% due for rewatch.
And then we have like I think a combined Incredible Hulk thing as well coming up, and that gets us through June. And I think there's some other ones in June that'll be fun, but we try to get as much of them as we can.
That's right. There's only so many.
We can't do all of them. If you notice on social media, I will still shout out some of the ones that we don't cover because it's still significant.
Definitely.
And then we have some pretty fun ones in July. I can't wait for us to do The Dark Knight. That's going to be really
I cannot wait.
I honestly haven't watched that movie in a bit, so it'll be a really good to like kind of. I've actually revisited the other. It's weird. I revisited the other two a bit more recently.
Okay.
Like Batman Begins was randomly on cable, and I just watched it while it was on.
Right.
And then like I think a year and a half ago, we had to get our place tinted for like termites, and I stayed in a hotel, and The Dark Knight Rises was on. So I just watched. So I watched that in my hotel room. So I've seen all those more recently than The Dark Knight.
I'm surprised. Did you guys not cover it maybe when it turned 10 last year?
The Dark Knight. Yeah, we did.
No?
Yeah, you're actually right. So it's been actually sooner than that. Sorry.
Okay,
so, like,
I didn't know for sure. I was just asking. I figured it would be one that you definitely covered. But I showed my
definitely more recent than The Dark Knight, though. Like The Dark Knight, it's been a few years since I watched it.
Yeah, I'm 2 years off a watch. At least, actually, maybe a little bit more than 2. Not 3 quite, but I remember I put my roommate on that movie. He'd never seen it before, and we showed it. I showed it to him during the pandemic, like in 2020 or 2021. Yeah, that was fantastic.
We probably blew his mind, dude.
Oh yeah, yeah, we had a great time watching that. But it's never. I enjoy that. I find something more to appreciate about that movie every single time I watch it. So yes, July will be a great calendar month for our anniversary calendar.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the rest of the year is pretty good, but like, it's like and it's hard. It's hard to pick them. Like, it's. I'm gonna talk to Jackson about something offline to kind of see how we pick some of them down the line. But like, some of them are like personal ones. Like, oh, I want to do this one. Some of them are like, some of them are like, he's like, I want to do that one. Some of them, it's like, oh, it's popular. Should we do it? So there's there's a lot that goes into it. But I'm gonna pitch something after we hang this up to kind of see if we should how we should approach them, because all of them are interesting in their own right? Like there's some horror movie ones that we might not be able to touch for their anniversaries in June, but like I've already like kind of like putting them in my back pocket for like September, October when we start wanting to cover horror movies. But yeah, I cannot wait for that. It was a really good year for stuff that came out 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years ago.
Absolutely. 2023 ended up being a big one. It's a good problem to have. Too many movies is a good problem. It's the best kind of problem to have. So I'm not complaining. You know what I mean?
I'm not complaining either. And it's always a pleasure. I love getting to do 2 of these with you on a Monday. It's fun.
Absolutely. It's always a blast.
And sign us all off.
On that note,
Bling Ring
guys,
episode.
Yeah, Bling Ring, episode 105 for Back to the Blockbuster. 2 we banged out today. It was fantastic. Had a blast talking about this one. Guys, Sofia Coppola fans, A24 fans that maybe haven't heard about this one, check it out. And if you do, as long with any other anniversary movies that we cover, if you guys check them out, let us know what you guys thought anywhere on social media. You guys can find us at Back to the Blockbuster. By now, you guys know you can find us anywhere you guys stream your podcasts, at Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Thanks a lot for joining us on episode 105. Gaius, always a pleasure, and I will be chatting with you next week and looking forward to episode 106. So thanks a lot, guys.